And the reason why I'm pointing this out is it's just kind of, this is another kind of useful placement for doing yoga practice, because normally that would be considered very challenging. But for a yogi, it's considered very powerful, because often it's the case that, and forget astrology, but just the principle, often it's the case that which is extremely challenging, when put into the right context, that same energy becomes extremely helpful. So challenging things become extremely helpful when you put it in a dharmic context. And that's powerful medicine. To know that is one thing, but then to have some Shakti, some energy, which you do, to be able to place it in the context that's going to be helpful and not to get stuck. It's not that we're not going to go in many contexts. We're going to be sometimes in the context of, when things are really hard, is that this fucking sucks and I need some help. That's a totally real context that should not be denied if that's how we naturally feel. But also we don't want to get stuck there. And we want to be able to know that we have the power to also, now let me take that, because by feeling that deep pain, you see, by denying that difficult context would be to kind of lose access to some of the power of the positive context. Because without feeling and being able to feel, out of fear that we're going to get stuck there by feeling it, but it's quite the opposite. But to be really allowing ourselves to feel lousy when we feel lousy, then we'll know we won't get stuck there. And then we can sit down and we can do a sadhana, or we can come to a Life Force Academy class, or we can do whatever it is that we do as helpful tools to then allow us to shift our energy into a more helpful context. But because we were real with ourselves and allowed ourselves to feel, and in many cases allow ourselves to emote, then that gives us a freed up energy to then say, okay, I've done that, I've metabolized in that way. Now let me kind of get the nutrition out of that metabolization by now contextualizing things in a more dharmic fashion, to where our suffering will help us have more empathy and compassion for the suffering of others. If I didn't have suffering, how can I really have that great of empathy? Isn't it not, that's a kind of an oxymoron. You have to suffer to have empathy. You have to that's where our compassion comes out of. And that's the wisdom that we get. Saturn will give you great wisdom, but through hard work and tough lessons. But that type of wisdom, when you get it, it sticks around. It's gonna stand the test of time, because Saturn rules time.